do you think that model of competition and service providers is gonna get where we need to be? Or are we gonna need subsidies in Fillmore and Houston County, for example? And so I was a little confused about whether or not you're for subsidies or not, or competition or not, and how that would affect underserved areas.
Kresha.
Thank you. Thank you, Peggy. The answer is yes.
Can you expand
Yes,
on that?
absolutely.
Yes.
And so here's what we have. So as I said, the hardest to reach areas are some of these deep rural areas and areas like yours. If we're going to use state dollars, that's where it should go. And so when I'm the one that sponsored the state subsidy broadband money. I'm not afraid to sponsor subsidy programs. But I also want to do it efficiently, because if we don't put some heavy parameters on that, once you put a state program together, everybody goes after it. So what I don't want people to do is take your area and say, well, there's not enough businesses there, so let's move to closer to the metro area where we can drive more economic development. No. That's where the federal dollars and that's where some of the private companies are going to get to first. Let's use the state program, the border-to-border project program that I've supported. Let's get to these hardest to reach areas. So the answer is yes, I support subsidies. I support them reasonably done. But I also want to use the border-to-border project and reforms to open up for more providers.
Can I just
Peggy,
one
yeah, sure,
follow-up?
absolutely.
Just a follow-up. Well, then can you explain? My understanding is that thus far, because there has been some funding,
Sure.
thus far none of it has ended up down here, and so why is that?
Yep.
Given what you're saying, if that's the goal, why hasn't that happened?
And that's entirely frustrating. You had 2 grant projects that did not get funded this last time around. And that's why we need to push for another round of funding. It's a competitive process. And the only thing I can say there is, I know how frustrating it is, and I hear this in all the areas, but the best thing that we can do is put a process together that's competitive and allow your area to come back and reapply. Now, I know you had 2 areas that did not get funding through LTD Broadband and Ascentech. And we had a $10 million funding this first year, and we had $19 million that wasn't funded. So we'll come back and we'll look at those apps again. Here's the frustrating thing, and I have to be honest with you, this takes time. And it takes time to get grants, and then once grants are awarded, it takes time to build these out. So the good news is we have more people looking at this problem with the federal, the private. Look at all the private providers you have, and the state. So we're all looking at it. But here's the thing: once those projects are awarded, sometimes they take 9 months before you even get fiber in the ground, because right now we're frozen. So we have we have all these things to fight, and so I know it's not easy to hear, but I can tell you the cavalry's coming. It's just going to take us a time to get to everybody. So, Peggy, you're right on, and I hope this answers it, but I'm for subsidies used wisely. I'm for reform. I'm for helping the private providers, and I'm for using federal dollars to supplement. I'll use whatever resources I can to get connectivity out to our homes, if that helps.